My name is Ronald Leverett. Everybody call me Ron Leverett. Okay, since I've been here since '73, Prairie View on the let's see, east and west, east end has flooded. This is the east end of the city of Prairie View. You notice this is east. You notice this lower area right here is low, and the further east you go, the lower see, Prairie View is on a hill, like, and it goes down toward the city of Walla, and this is a lower side going that way. I think you probably already went over that side and saw some of where it flooded on Ruby Street. Okay, that's the lowest, one of the lowest spots in Prairie View. So we've always had problems with that lower end, east end. One of the things that dealing with the flood issues, we have not, I feel, adequately dealt with it because we haven't put a lot of emphasis on it because it only floods so, between the flood and the time that the heavy rains come. Well, we have not put a lot of emphasis on trying to go to the federal government or the state government to secure funds over a period of time, even when I was the mayor of Prairie View, because it was so spacious in terms of when the flood took place that we really didn't go out to try to secure funds to take care of that.
If you drive around Echo Street, what you'll find is that the property goes all the way to the curb. There's no drainage whatsoever. And in some areas of town, if you drive around after rain, you can see that the water is backed up. And so this says to me, we have got a problem. I think the flooding, particularly in the area of Ruby Street, has been a point of contention as well as a point of frustration for the Prairie View community. I think that when you drive down Ruby Street and you see the abandoned homes, each one of those homes represents a family that should be living there, that should be functioning, paying taxes even to the city of Prairie View. It means that our productivity as a city, our capacity becomes limited when people can't stay in their homes. I think the city government has failed those people in failing to seek solutions to the problem. A few days before the flood, the culverts in that area were overgrown with weeds. Even 2 days after the floods, you could go and see where perhaps if the city had done the proper maintenance, the damage wouldn't have been so bad. But some people have redone their homes 4 and 5 times only to finally give up and move away. I think that's a tragedy. I think that before we say that a problem can't be solved, we should at least make our best attempt to solve it. The entire city of Prairie View needs a flood control plan. Otherwise, we will one day be like the city of Houston. So my proposal is that we seek the help of the Army Corps of Engineers and see if they would be willing to take us on as a project. If not, then maybe a collaboration between the Army Corps of Engineers, Prairie View A&M Engineering Department, and whatever other entities we can find that could bring us some assistance and some guidance in how to make a better future, not only for Ruby Street, but for all of Prairie View.
If you notice in most planned communities nowadays, retention ponds. I'm sure you are an engineer, you know what retention ponds are, which catches a lot of the floods in the areas. I think that with the help of the university, with all the research that's going on at the university that could help the city of Prairie View, I think combining the university's efforts, the city's efforts, and the county, that we could come up with a plan, a plan that will reduce, like we're talking about retention ponds, we can come up with a plan that would be sufficient to take care of a lot of the flooding. And because a part of the city is in a natural flood area, it's not going to ever, as far as I'm concerned, ever be the total end. But I think that we could do a lot more than we have done in the past, other than digging ditches out, because just to let the water flow, it has to go someplace. So, yes, I believe that with the kind of research that could take place, yes, we could do and find dig retention ponds that would take a lot of the water off of the areas that are being plagued by the floods.
Well, I've been in this particular house 16 years, and what I saw 2 weeks ago, I'd never seen all the through Ike, Rita, all of it. That dry creek behind me had never had more than ankle length worth of water, and that rascal probably had at least 10, 12 feet of water, and it was running hard. There wasn't no swimming. You fell in that, you were history. And for some reason, it did go down rather well, which I guess is a credit to somebody's planning. But wherever that water went, they got a problem. And probably the usual victims in Prairie View, I guess the water flooded again over by Ruby and Emerald. I'm sure it flooded over there by the apartments where the low areas are. So, I mean, if you know these areas are going to be flooded, little heads up might be to try to divert that water somewhere where it wouldn't cause so much damage.
Because we have not addressed it, when I say addressed it, meaning that the citizens have not, in my opinion, come together. We as citizens, including myself, have not come together to address with a plan, address the situation. It's gone unnoticed per se. We don't have enough people that are in the areas that need the support and help. We don't have enough people there to go to the county, and then unfortunately, the people who are not affected by the problem don't reach out to the people that need it. Meaning that the university, the universities and administration are not really affected by the flooding, and many of the people who either work at the university or I call so-called upper crest citizens are not really affected by the flooding. There's not a lot of emphasis placed on it. So as a result, we don't end up getting the support. And so therefore, going with a plan, we don't have a plan. We don't have a plan to take to the county. So therefore, they don't offer a plan to us.
I think that for some time now, the city of Prairie View has suffered from leadership that lacked vision. I see a city that in the 25 or 30 years I've been gone has not made the progress that I would have expected. In fact, has in some ways gone backward. I see a city with dilapidated housing. I see a city with inadequate housing. I see a city where business has not developed. And it makes me sad, but it also makes me motivated, because in the time that I've been away, I've served on a planning commission. I've done work in nonprofit. I've worked for the federal government. And I've been trained in collaboration and problem resolution. And so I see where we can go. And I'm really excited about the possibilities for the city of Prairie View. But in terms of the leadership that we've had, I think the strong mayor government has kind of taken away from the power of the city council. I think we need every city council person to be strong, to have their own ideas, to have their own projects even. I also think that the planning commission has been underutilized. I want to see a robust planning commission that puts in place recommendations and even some zoning. so that we can grow with grace, because that's what we've learned from other cities, that when you put in the proper infrastructure and the proper vision, those cities take off. When you just build on top of things and you don't plan ahead, you get something that will be prone to flooding and will not be attractive for people who want to move here. We want to be an attractive competitor to Waller and Hempstead and Field Store and even Hockley. We want people to drive through the city of Prairie View and say, hey, I want to raise a family here. This is where I want to plant my roots. I want students to make a decision. You know what? I have a small business and I think that my business can thrive right here in the city of Prairie View. That's where we want to be. In Prairie View, depending on who you're ordering from or who you're talking to, your zip code might be 77445, 77446, or even 77484. If I order a pizza, my address is in Hempstead. If I order something from the pharmacy in Fort Worth, my address is in Waller. And this is a problem that has gone on for decades. And it's not a problem that's going to be resolved by talking to FedEx or UPS, because I've done that. This is a high-level problem that needs some high-level thinking. I know that there were a group of citizens who got together and did all the planning toward solving the zip code problem. And the current mayor walked in and completely smashed it. We need the help of Senator Ted Cruz or Beto O'Rourke, whoever it might wind up being. We need the help of Senator John Cornyn, because this is a federal issue. What we cannot do at the city of Prairie View is sit here and pretend that we're not connected to the county or the state government or the federal government. Where we need that assistance, then we need to not only ask for it, but also demand it. For so many decades, people in the city of Prairie View have paid taxes, and yet when they got ready to check their mail, they had to get in their car and go to the post office and turn a key for a box that they pay for. Whereas all the other taxpayers in Waller County get their mail delivered to their home. I'd like to ask, why the difference? Why the difference? The city of Prairie View has received second-class services in many areas, but we're not second-class people, and we refuse to be a second-class city. I think that's what I bring to this race. I have a vision of Prairie View as a premier city, a first-class city, and I won't stand for us to be treated as anything less than that. I think Prairie View has a housing problem. I think that we know that there is not enough housing on campus for students. But the housing problem is not just a student problem. There are elderly people, there are families, there are young people, people like myself who are renters. It took me over a year to find a stable place to live in the city of Prairie View. And in that year, I have experienced some things that have really been eye-opening. One is that landlords have a tendency to jack up the rent to whatever the market will bear. The other thing is that landlords charge by the room for housing that is very often inadequate. Another thing is that landlords will promise students things, essential things like air conditioning, and not deliver. In a city where it is often above 100 degrees in the summertime, air conditioning is one of the habitability issues that the Texas Property Code says a landlord must take care of. And yet there has been little effort because students don't have the option, they don't have the finances or even the time to try to take a landlord to court. They often find themselves sleeping in their cars. And that's not an exaggeration. So I believe that Prairie View needs, at minimum, a housing code. As a home rule city, we should already have that. We need a housing code. The other thing that we need is we need for landlords who want to operate boarding houses, we need for them to be inspected, and we need for them to be permitted. And so if the landlord is under the opinion that their only duty is to collect rent, then we will do some workshops for them to let them know, as a landlord, these are your duties. If you want to collect rent, we're fine with that, but you need to be ethical. Even as a city, I believe that if we don't do good, we can't receive good. If we don't have a reputation of being a city that is hospitable and open and fair, who will want to live here? What parent will want to bring their student here to live in substandard housing? We need to be thinking about the future, not just our immediate financial concerns. So although it may be a difficult thing to do, although there may be people who find it unpleasant to consider, I'm going to stand on the side of what is right. And I'm going to ask that we get a housing code, that we enforce the housing code, and that we become good neighbors and good landlords in the city of Prairie View.
This part, they kind of, I wouldn't say they try to get over, but off-campus housing is limited. So we always, each freshman class is bigger and bigger, but it's never no like off-campus housing being built really. So most of them take advantage of that. They make rent high, they have this deposit, that deposit, but it's really based on your experience. I've had landlords who are real understanding and gave me like real competitive, reasonable prices for rent and stuff. Then I've dealt with landlords who are invasive, will come to your house without letting you know. They'll charge you for every little thing, and just because they know you have nowhere else to go besides on campus, and you living off campus for a reason already. So.
You get into class and stuff like that, because it's, now you're not on campus, so you actually have to leave early, and traffic can be bad, by phase 1 and 2, or just getting on campus. So just making the time and being on time, and then making sure that because we're so far from campus, we don't have police and stuff, all the time out here. So I say that's the biggest difference. Is it more security-wise and traveling, and convenience to travel on the campus?
It's more or less the surrounding area.
Yeah, more or less the surrounding area. Man, probably just a month ago, the front of our house just got fixed. Like the parking, driving conditions, the road conditions in Brookside are trash. The trash in Brookside is trash. So I wish I could change, because everybody else has trash moving like that, right? Moving like that. When stuff goes wrong, like that the property manager can't, and like the landlord can't handle, like Brookside's kind of slow on that, real slow. Like probably won't even get to you probably till next week. So I really change that. But living conditions is Brookside. We college students, you really can't ask for a lot, So.
Even the better landlords I've had, they don't really respond either on time, whether you're emailing, texting, calling, because they probably don't live out here. Not in my experience, I've had landlords come and tend to like maintenance and stuff fast, but I've seen like some of my friends, they might have a landlord who comes and works on this and that, fixes stuff like they're supposed to, but those are like the landlords who kind of live around here. And those are also the more expensive landlords too. So.
Still have, like, I wouldn't mind having a cop there, be like, okay, make sure everybody stays inside, music stays low.
The security in Brookside has went up actually, which you can't really fault that, because I mean you really can't really like be mad at that, because it's security. Thank God. It's Brookside 3 years ago, a whole different place. Hey, I love the little cop right there. I love 12 right there, for real.
So I mean that's about it, and then I guess I would say more background checks on everything.
More background, yeah. Yeah, because in an apartment in Cypress, they, who are you type of deal.
Say it could just be more of a precautionary thing to make sure you're not just housing anybody.
Because because this is like real information, like real stories that we've heard. Like people have worked their way in the Brookside and aren't nowhere near students at PV, so or nowhere near like our age, so like that's why we was like, background checks or some kind of preliminary. Make sure like give me your transcript for real.
All
Like
students, or at least people that are actually, they're students.
yeah.
That's it.
That makes the environment a little bit more smoother.
Everybody will be able to easily know each other because we're all
Yes.
doing the same thing, trying to better each other or trying to better ourselves.
So far as, for me, if I've had car troubles, that's been the only problem I've had. Getting there and back. And sometimes, say, if there's kids that don't have cars, they have to rely on the shuttle bus to take them. But sometimes the shuttle bus, most of the time, the bus is late and the kids get to their class like 20, 30 minutes late. So that's like a big issue that could be fixed or should be fixed for those kids that don't have the luxury of having a car and getting back and forth to their classes and stuff.
If we ask for a request for something, he's not there unless it's something that's needed to be fixed. For the most part, I guess so. He's not held accountable. But unless it's like, I guess anything else like regarding mail or things like that, he's usually not there or he don't answer.
He doesn't answer.
I mean, he answers, but then he'll forget about it, and then it's just we just go on without it because we still don't have a key for mail or anything.
Okay.
My philosophy as mayor is that the mayor should be concerned about the foundational issues of the city. I don't see it as my job to go out and find businesses to come to the city. I see it as my job to make sure that we have good drainage, that we have all of the rooftops that belong to us to be counted. That's one of the things with the zip code issue. When businesses look at the city of Prairie View to determine, do we have the population to support the kind of business they want to bring? Well, Waller gets part of the credit for Prairie View rooftops, Hempstead gets part of the credit for Prairie View rooftops, and we don't get the businesses. So by solving the zip code issue, almost immediately we get a benefit because now all of our rooftops get counted. I believe that my qualification, first of all, as a homegirl. My family moved to Prairie View when I was 2 years old, and this was the place where I was raised and nurtured. This was a place where I came to believe that I could do big things. This was the place where I saw Black people in government and in control, so that I came into being with a kind of confidence that many people don't have. I've seen the achievements that we can do, and I believe that we have the capacity to do them. As a lawyer, I believe that the ability to research, to draft policies and procedures, which I've done at the City of Houston Health Department, to build collaboration among community partners, which I did again at the City of Houston Health Department and at AIDS Foundation Houston. I managed the construction and the operation of a housing program for women with HIV and AIDS and their children. From the ground up, we built a program for homeless women that would transition them out into the community. Those kinds of skills become important when you're the leader of a city. I have been a United Methodist pastor. Again, the humility that you learn as a pastor, the rigor and discipline that you have to have will be important and will be of great assistance in leading the city of Prairie View. as a government lawyer. I learned protocol and process as a defense lawyer. I learned to understand the concerns of people in poverty and marginalized people. As a prosecutor, I came to understand that the criminal justice system does not necessarily work on our behalf. And finally, as an advocate for marginalized people, I have been at ground zero. I have seen the struggles of our folk. To be able to be a part of a city that can lift people, that can create opportunity, that can create business, that can grow our citizens into leaders, if you will. It's a great opportunity, but I have been forged for this opportunity. I believe that my unique array of gifts and graces is exactly what the city of Prairie View needs at this moment, and I am willing to serve. My name is Dr. Valda Combs, and I'm Prairie View Strong.